What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the Devy YouTube channel. We're back with another mock draft. We're going to Devy mock, all classes in college football included. We're going to be looking at 4 rounds here, and we're going to be diving into my best values. And there seems to be a round that has the most value that if you are going to start a Devy draft this summer, or if you're looking at, hey, where's the most value at? This round is the one to attack. So we're going to talk about it in the episode. All right, I appreciate you guys. As always, as the intro is going, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll dive into the mock on the other side of the intro. All right, let's get into it. I had to put my guy Malik Neighbors up there as the, as the thumbnail. But let's get into the picks. And we're just going to go through this and we'll kind of talk about it. So 101's Caleb Williams. This is a super flex tight end premium PPR. So when you're looking at this overall, of course, Caleb's going to be the 101. He's been the consensus 101 all year. There's really no question marks about what Caleb is. So we'll just kind of move on from there. 102 is Marvin Harrison Jr. So this could be flipped. It goes back and forth between him and Drake May, depending on the draft that you're in. And this one was Marvin Harrison Jr. We kind of talked about that, though. We did an episode on this, like who would you rather have and why? And to me, I always lean this. I think there's 2 elite assets in Devy right now, and that is Marvin Harrison and that is Caleb Williams. We have combined Devy Dynasty rankings on our Patreon, and both of those guys are going to be in the top 10 of their position right now in Dynasty as well. So you understand what their value is in Devy. So that's the 2 reasons the 2 whys. Why are these guys going at that spot? Because they're already top 10 Dynasty assets. Now, at the 103, we have Drake May. We've kind of talked about the questions. I know we've done videos on this here on the channel about what we can expect moving forward. Obviously had a good year last year. What is that going to look like going? He's got to fix some of that, the footwork, the mechanics, some of that stuff that we want to see from him. But 103 is essentially where you have. Now, after the first 3 picks, though, in Devy, we're seeing kind of different spots, right? So in this one, we saw Travion Henderson go at the 104. We have not seen that in a long time. So I haven't seen him go as early as that. I like this pick. I do think this is a ceiling pick, right? You think he can come back up, be that 104 mark. And as far as next year goes, this is a 24 class, right? So all 4 of these guys, you want Travion to be at that 104. So you're expecting to be a top 5 rookie pick with this pick, and you hope that he hits that ceiling, right? The 105, we have Emeka Egbuka. So again, this is one of those ones. It is hard for me to pick him in the top 5, but he might be, realistically a top 5 guy, right? So, Emeka is one of those tough ones for me. I know from an analytical profile, he measures up. He's probably analytically a little better than Marvin in a couple categories. But that's kind of where we're seeing the first 5 picks. Emeka, Travion. Now, Travion stuck in there. But again, from the 24 class. And I think that goes to show you something. When you're looking at the 24 class overall, a lot of people are buying into that immediate production in Devy right now because of the unknowns from the other guys. And I think that's something to kind of note as you get into your draft classes. Now, we have a first guy, Nick Singleton from the 25 class, 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns on the ground last year. Could really take that next step. I like Kaytron Allen. I think he's a value. We're going to talk about him later in this episode. But Nick Singleton getting at that 106. First guy outside the 24 class. 107 is Raheem Sanders. Big kid. I know a lot of people like him. JC Dynasty, one of my good friends in the space, and he does stuff with DGen's Dynasty and a bunch of other stuff, and he has on Patreon, or excuse me, his own Substack. He talks about Raheem. He likes Raheem in terms of being that 3-down guy. So he doesn't have any question marks about his receiving. You see the numbers on the screen. I mean, he absolutely dominated last year in the SEC. That's something to note. I think his usage is going to be just as high. So if you have no questions about that, some people would have probably drafted him where Travion went, right? So there are kind of that, where you can fit these guys in at from 104 to 107. It really depends on preference and where you have them in your rankings. Now, 108 is Quinshon Judkins. Obviously had the great year last year for Ole Miss. 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns out there in the SEC at Ole Miss. Absolutely phenomenal player. Some people would have him higher than this. 108 is probably a good, pretty fair, area. We were talking about this, me and Christian Williams, on our last pod that we did. The running back position scares the hell out of us. There's not a lot of sure things at that running back position in Devy right now, like there was with Bijan Robinson or even Breece Hall, right? Like there was guys out there that we expected to be that one for each class. I don't necessarily think we have that right now. There's some question marks out there, but Quinshon going at the 108. 109, we have Xavier Worthy. Again, could be the wide receiver 3 or 2 of the class. Overall, like he could be in that area. You gotta like his potential. If he's healthy, coming back in that offense, Xavier can be that guy. 110, we have Quinn Ewers. This is the highest I've seen his ceiling. So talking about this the other day on a podcast that I guessed it on, Quinn Ewers is now getting drafted at ceiling. In January, February, he was going like the third round. Arch was going at this area. Now Arch went in the fourth round in this one, right? Spoiler alert. And now Quinn's at the 110. So no one really knows what to do with these guys. This is definitely Quinn Ewers' ceiling, though. And again, with the quarterback position, I don't think I'm comfortable drafting a quarterback like Quinn Ewers here at the first with some of the guys still left on the board. 111 is Brock Bowers, so maybe a little lower than we usually see him go. 6'4", 230. Again, that size may, make people question whether or not he should go in that top 5 area. 111, though, that's pretty good value for a kid that probably comes in as a top 5 dynasty asset next year as long as he gets the draft capital. And then last one, 112, Evan Stewart. 5'11", 170. This is, drafting him at a ceiling as well. I love Evan Stewart. Everybody knows that, but he's definitely at 112. You're dropping him ahead of some guys that may usually go ahead of him in ADP, right? So you're really basing this on ceiling play, and you have that expectations for him. Now, second round, we have a lot of guys that we used to see in the first, right? So Drew Aller put him at the 201. I definitely the person that was drafting him likes Drew Aller. Braylon Allen to 202. Zachariah Branch, Will Shipley. So Branch is the first 26 guy, 2026 class. Will Shipley, Jonte Cook. That's interesting. I haven't seen Cook go this high in a while, and I like that pick. I really like Jonte Cook there in the second round. I loved him when I was getting him in the fourth round, but now he's definitely shooting up the boards. Luther Burden at the 206. Connor Wiegman at the 207. Malik Neighbors at the 208. 209 is Malachi Nelson. Barian Brown is at the 210. Trey Benson at the 211. And Cedric Baxter Jr. at the 212. So a lot of some freshmen, right? So we're looking at those elite freshmen here. Trey Benson could be that elite breakout kid that we've been talking about. Like, hey, pops out of nowhere, Kendre Miller type. I know Christian Williams is really high on him here at the channel. I know there's some guys that think he could be the running back 2 of the class right now in the 24 class. So we're thinking about who's ahead of him. Raheem, we have Travion, we have Shipley, we have Allen, we have Donovan Edwards. So like people are there. Benson is definitely one of those guys that we touted early on here at the Devy Royale in January. And now it seems like his ADP is starting to get in that ceiling territory, right? This is why it definitely pays to follow us earlier, because you would have definitely jumped ahead on that value if you had been watching this channel since January. Now, as far as my favorite value of this class, so my favorite value of this round, is Malik Neighbors. I really like his value. There's a lot of good values in that second round, but if I had to pinpoint one, I really like Malik going here because there are some that believe he's the wide receiver 3 of the 24 class. If he does that, and you can get a kid like him in the second round, and you pair him with another elite asset in the first, that's how you win your Devy leagues, at least the Devy value game, right? Now, 14 games last year, we saw that 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns. I just hope that Garrett Nussmeier starts a little bit over Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels, but he just can't hit him. And I think that's the biggest case with Malik. As a wide receiver, he just gets overthrown. He gets underthrown. He gets all kinds of different throws, just not to him. So if he can extend and get that better quarterback play, I think he could have a chance to be in that wide receiver 3 category. Now, third round here, we got Antonio Williams. So I put out a poll today. If you watch this on a Monday, which is Mock Draft Monday, it's not today. You can go back in my Twitter and look at it. And I said, who would you rather have, Antonio Williams or Barian Brown? And, it's interesting kind of how those two shake out because they're really going close in drafts. That's why I kind of did that. But also just to look at, what's the percentage. And right now, Antonio Williams is kind of 62-30 on that, but not in this draft. We had Barian Brown go first. So it really kind of depends. Looking at Antonio Williams, you expect that breakout, moving forward in that Garrett Riley offense and what they can do with Klubnik and where that's at. It'll be interesting for sure. Now, we have Donovan Edwards, Branson Robinson, Justice Haynes, Territory McMillan, Brandon Ennis, Cade Klubnik, Rome Odunze. Be careful with Rome. He's got his family out there on the Twitter speeds. Be careful. Okay. Troy Franklin, Dante Moore, Katron Allen, and Makai Lemon. I'm going to tell you right now, for me personally, this is about, I loved every pick in this third round. So I'm going to put a favorite value, but really there's a lot of them. I love Katron Allen there. I love Makai Lemon. I love Dante Moore, Troy Franklin, all these guys. The only guy I would maybe hesitate in this round is maybe Rome, because I think Rome's getting overvalued right now. I don't even know if he's the best receiver in Washington, but please don't go spread that out on social media so I get yelled at. But I love all of the value here in this draft. If you can collect some third round picks, I definitely would do that heading in. Everybody goes after the first and second round, but there's ways to kind of get those third round picks. I know Devy ADP is kind of overrated. So when we show you these, it's really based on the draft that you're in, but there's some value in that third round. I wouldn't mind adding some third round picks because of the cheaper, asset to attain. Now, as far as my favorite value, I'm going to go Donovan Edwards. I'm going to be a homer. I think if you can get Donovan Edwards in the early third, the mid third, I think he could have that second round draft capital next year with his pass catching and PPR. I expect big things from him. I don't know how ready Corum's going to be to start the year. They might ease him back into as well. So when you think about when his surgery was, I believe he had his surgery in January. So when you're looking at that, like Edwards is probably going to start the season off. If he has a big year, big games early on in the season, and then a huge year, we could see Donovan Edwards' stock rise more than what we have here, right? In the third round. That's a running back I'm willing to take a shot on in this area. I like Justice Haynes, obviously, but for me, I'm a big fan of Donovan Edwards in this area, in this value here. Now, fourth round, last round, we're going to go through Javonte Barnes, Arch Manning, Jatavian Sanders, Ruben Owens, Nico, Carnell Tate, Damian Martinez, Trevor Etienne, Jurian Dickey, Deuce Robinson, Bucky Irving, and Jaquindon Jackson. So that's how the fourth round rolls. Some picks that really quick that stand out that I'm not going to get to full detail in my favorite value. Deuce Robinson scares me. I like the tight end, but again, he's a baseball player, right? Carnell Tate is a heck of a value. We were talking about him, me and Jay, on the Patreon podcast, and we were saying, hey, you know what? Carnell Tate might be that guy that just steps in and is Marvin Harrison Jr. after this next year, right? He might get a little run on it. If you listen to the Cover 3 podcast, they did an Ohio State episode, and they talked about Carnell Tate may get some run, but they more think he might be on the Marvin Harrison Jr. track unless there's some injuries ahead of him, where he just steps in and he might be that guy his sophomore year. So that's something to know. You get him a fourth round, he might have first round draft capital next year or second round draft capital, right? So that is something to look at. The guy that I do want to talk about is favorite value, and it's not necessarily a favorite value. I just want to talk about him. Jaquindon Jackson from Utah. Like this kid as a runner, like he obviously transitioned to running back towards the end of the year last year. You see the 6.8 yards of average and 9 touchdowns. Heavy volume for rushing attack. In terms of what the quarterback play is going to be, Cameron Rising coming off the injury, Utah could use Jackson. I know they have a very solid running back room, but Jackson's a fun play to me. Like if you're playing Devy, it's supposed to be fun. Like I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like I think that there's value to having fun and hitting on some of these guys. And Jackson's the fun value. Hey, I'm going to hit this kid. He's going to play running back. And I think he's got the athleticism because he had that quarterback, that dual threat stuff, to definitely kind of take off in Devy, and it's going to be fun. We're going to see that. And I don't mind that play. Late fourth, he's probably going in the fifth, to be honest with you. In some drafts, not even drafted. I know they took him in the fourth here just to take him. But I do want to talk. I think Jackson would be a fun play for you. You have a couple fourths or fifths lying around, a couple value plays. Take a shot on Jackson. I think that was a good move. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to the channel. Hope these mocks have helped you. Let me know in the comments if they've helped you. We've been doing this since January, actually probably earlier. We did a combined draft in it was early December, trying to help you with value. Understand that if you're still struggling with player value, I can't recommend the Patreon enough. It's $3 a month and you get Devy Dynasty rankings, 150 quarterbacks, 200 running backs, 200 wide receivers, and I think it's 150 tight ends, combined draft rankings. It's worth it for that. Plus all the other stuff that we offer. Highly recommend that, especially if you're new to the format. So appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys next time.